Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is the threat handed out by the EU, or more importantly the European Commission, to Ireland, where they say they've got 2 months to accept new laws in their country regarding hate and hate crime, or the EU will take Ireland to court. And this is I find this pretty bonkers. Now, I would suggest that all around Europe, where people see immigration and that sort of stuff as illegal immigration and fake asylum as a problem, I think it's probably fair to assume that we've seen more reaction to that on the streets of Ireland than in any other country in the continent of Europe, where every country, bar the odd exception like Poland, etc., are having problems with the levels of immigration. But the Irish have really took it steps further, the way that their civilians have reacted to the anger within their communities of the levels of illegal immigration and fake asylum. So I kind of think the Irish government's probably caught between a rock and a hard place, because if they bail into this, it could be seen by lots of their citizens as being controlled more by the EU than their own people. And that will certainly, I wouldn't imagine, make the situation any better in Ireland. So the story, Ireland's got 2 months to begin implementing hate speech. Now, that's not the only thing, by the way. There's 3 different things they're telling Ireland that they need to sort out, but this hate speech one seems to be the one that's caught imagination more. So there've been 2 months to implement or even begin implementing hate speech laws or face being taken to court of justice of the EU. Under existing EU rules on combating racism and xenophobia, the European Commission believes Ireland is allegedly failing to comply with laws first agreed in 2008 surrounding the criminalisation of race-based violence and hatred. In the Commission's monthly infringement package, which details what countries it believes are to be failing to comply with European law, Ireland has been given 2 months to begin implementing laws preventing racially charged hate speech. The state has also been told that it must implement legislation against denial, condoning of and gross trivialisation of international crimes, which include the Holocaust, by the way. The Commission has threatened legal action if the necessary measures are not implemented. The government has repeatedly pointed to existing legislation that criminalises the incitement to hatred and hate speech under the Prohibition of Incitement to Hatred Act from 1989. This is an Irish law. In 2017, the Irish Court Service said just 5 people were convicted under the law. The existing legislation is not good enough in the eyes of the European Commission. However, today warned Ireland and Finland that laws must be amended within 2 months or face the possibility of being referred to the Court of Justice of the European Union. Ireland can be compelled to begin implementing the laws or fined for not doing so by that court. I wonder how they do that. They can be compelled to. What's that all about? Anyway, the Commission's opinion reads, while Ireland notified some transposition measures, in the meantime, the Commission considers that Ireland still fails to transpose the previous provisions related to criminalising the public incitement to violence or hatred against a group or member of such groups based on certain characteristics, as well as the conducts of condoning, denial and gross trivialisation of international crimes and the Holocaust. So hate crime legislation came into effect at the end of December last year, but controversially omitted reference to hate speech, defined as a public incitement to violence or hatred against a group or members of a group based on certain characteristics. There's always just certain characteristics, isn't it? Which kind of means the laws mean that you can be hateful to some people, and that's not right, but others are fair game. That to me has always been a bit weird. Where are we? The laws are also subject to protest by, here we go again, far-right agitators and conspiracy theorists, as well as the Irish Council for Civil Liberties and the People Before Profit, TD Paul Murphy. So, you've got to take into context the whole thing that was going on here in Ireland, where there's lots of people who are angry with the effects it's having in their communities with the high level of illegal immigrants they're seeing. Now, you'd imagine that the protected characteristics that you're not allowed to be hurtful to would include the many, if not all, of the immigrants that are arriving in vast numbers. So the people who are already upset by the numbers will quite rightly feel that these laws are going to be specifically aimed at them. So it's not going to do anything to calm down the level of emotions that we've all seen on the streets in particularly Dublin, but to be fair, throughout the Republic of Ireland. And I think because of that, the Irish government are really between a rock and a hard place, because if they let the EU push them into not bringing in new laws, they seem to have laws there, but they're just not strong enough for the EU. I can imagine the people of the Republic of Ireland being even more unhappy. And when I've already told you that they're probably taken to the streets and been more vocal and publicly gone against the levels of immigration, you kind of wonder, well, where could this end? Would it lower? Well, I don't think so. Would it stay the same? Possibly. Would it increase? I think more than likely. And it just shows you that, because I've said this all along, I always find it bizarre that so many parliaments, so many governments around the world all come up with the same crazy, batshit crazy ideas at the same time. You know, things like gender and immigration, they all seem to have the same bizarre notions in their mind at the same time. But now we're starting to see why and how that's happened, because the EU are evidently driving this thing where only certain characteristics within our populations can be victims of hate crimes. Staying up to date with events around the world can be difficult, where it's impossible to consult a single source for the full story. Narratives that shape public opinion often just reinforce media and corporate-backed vested interests. It's hard to know what information to trust. See what the media is exaggerating, sensationalising, over or under reporting. That's why I've been using Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that combines news from around the world in one place, so you can compare coverage. For every news source, you can see if it has any political bias, how reliable the reporting is, and who owns them. They even have a blind spot feed that highlights news disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. Take a data-driven view on the news and stay current. Get news from thousands of sources worldwide in one place. I've been using Ground News to help me get all the world's news in one place and give a more balanced opinion on what we read and viewing who is telling us the truth and who isn't. Subscribe via my link to get 40% off the Vantage subscription. It's the one I use to get unlimited access to every feature. Your subscription can not only help my channel, but also help Ground News, as it makes the media landscape more transparent, while others have no protection whatsoever. So it's now starting to become obvious that these things are not just organic, that, you know, they've just sort of happened by chance. They're happening because certain people are driving them. And anybody that thinks going back into the EU is a good idea, then you're obviously as batshit crazy as the people who are trying to put these laws through in the first place. And the Brexit, you say, Brexit's failed. Well, no wonder Brexit's failed. Brexit failed because the majority of the population of the United Kingdom wanted Brexit without any strings. And we entrusted 650 people in a building called Westminster, who by the majority of them didn't want Brexit. So is it any wonder we end up with a joke Brexit? Brexit, to me, was taking back full sovereignty of your country, protecting your borders and deciding what laws you would have and what laws you wouldn't. Because it's things like this that happen when you don't have those independence. And I'm quite concerned by the actions recently with Keir Starmer, where it appears he's wanting us to have the relationship with the EU that should take us back in without having the name of us being a member of the EU. And that's just ridiculous, because that's not what people voted for them. People say, aye, well, Brexit didn't work. I kind of get that, because we didn't get Brexit. We get a sort of watered-down version where we still don't really know what we're doing with Northern Ireland, which is an integral part of the United Kingdom. We still have people still remaining here and citing ECHR rules, which are European rules, not ours. And it's just a bit bonkers. So you can't judge Brexit, because I don't believe we've got or had Brexit, and for the reasons I've given you below. So scary times for the island. I hope the government stick two fingers up to the EU and say no. And I doubt this will help the dwindling numbers of people in the Republic of Ireland who want to remain part of the EU. So if you enjoyed the video, thumbs up please, put some comments below and hit the share button. If you've not already done so, thank you for everyone who has, but if you've not already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you want, hit the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know when I put out a new video. The most important thing of all, unless your son in the European Commission is an unelected body telling other countries where they have elected parliaments how to run their countries, then not you, but everyone else. Have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.